And here we are back again with another expert chat here. We're delighted to be joined by Neville McCormack, who fortunately lives locally and has devoted 20 years plus of his career to financial fraudulent crimes and combating them, and now working towards, I suppose, this in your everyday combating fraud and detection.
Yeah,
you're very welcome, Neville.
Thanks very much, and it's great to come across. I'm only across the street there, so delighted to be here this morning. I have 20 years experience in financial crime. I was 20 years in the Guards looking at all sorts of financial crime, mostly fraud at the time, from fraud, from money laundering, and I joined that back in 2000, joined the financial crime section, the Gardai Economic Crime Bureau back in 2007, where fraud was check fraud and altered checks and false identities, and moving really into the e-crime space that was called internet crime at the time. Now it's of course it's the world of cyber now, and I was there till 2015, and then I worked in the Gardai Cybercrime Bureau, and then in the anti-money laundering section, and now I'm in the anti-money laundering section of the Central Bank.
God, we are delighted to have you here, Neville, considering with it being National Fraud Awareness Week, we couldn't have anyone better to talk to our followers and members, and I suppose hear the stories that you have to tell us, but also maybe what we can learn from it. I suppose, Neville, to start off, can you tell us about the trends that you're seeing in fraud at the moment?
The trends in fraud, like they change weekly, they change yearly, but at the same time, the same ones are there the most, and everything is kind of on an online presence nowadays. The main frauds are social engineering, phishing scams, online scams themselves, investment fraud is a big one, and card not present fraud, account takeover fraud. So they're all the high words of what people would use. Social engineering, of course, is when people use social capacities like emails, social websites, phishing scams, all that kind of stuff.
Even down to WhatsApp, we've seen recently.
To take people's social engineering is to get access to people's information. Okay. Then you have phishing scams where they'll use for access to get people's card payments and get your personal identification. Then you have complete just straight online scams where where an online presence is completely false and people will purchase items, and these scammers know what people want, whether it's weight loss tablets, whether it's the newest product, all that kind of stuff, and it's usually you purchase something that doesn't exist at all.
Okay.
And then the investment fraud is a huge one, where people see an investment, they think it's a great investment, they use their savings, use their money, and then the money goes nowhere. It's not an investment at all.
Okay.
They're the big ones. And then account takeover fraud is where your data was breached through another agency, like the HSE attack that time. So your data could be with some agency, and that agency is attacked like a cyber attack, and your information is stolen there, and then it might be used 2 or 3 months down the line. You might have know nothing about it at all.
Okay.
So they're the type of ones that they're.
God, you have a lot of big words there, and a lot of, I suppose, scary scenarios when you think about them all together. You're so programmed into looking at this all day, every day, and I suppose what we're trying to do is break it down and maybe, I suppose, create awareness. Ultimately, is what we're trying to do about it. I suppose people think it can't happen to them, or I'm not going to be caught. Everybody can be caught, I think, is what we're learning this week. Nobody is I suppose, can avoid it. Everyone's going to face it at some stage, but I suppose it's to learn the mechanisms. Yeah. Is there anything through the education piece that you'll be working on that you think is good for our followers and members to be aware of?
Yeah, so everybody, as you said, everybody thinks they're safe, and most things happen now. Everybody knows, everyone has a smartphone, and when it's in my pocket, it's safe. So you think it's in your pocket, it's safe, and that's not necessarily the case. You could have your payment card in your wallet, and it's been used in some other country because of card not present fraud, and that's because you would have engaged some way on some website, stuff like that. The types of those frauds that are really prevalent out there at the moment in the education is the romance fraud one. You know, that's a big one.
Could you tell us a bit more maybe about that one?
So romance fraud would be an example where somebody would be on dating apps or an online presence, where someone would get to know someone on an online presence or dating app, and they would build up a relationship. Again, a complete online presence, where you might be a real person. This person could be an AI machine, an artificial intelligence, or it could be someone working on 700 or 600 people at the same time. All they need is one head. So you will have this trust built up with someone, and then they will say that they're in an NGO working in some country, or they'll say they're a military person and they're looking for some funds to come home, and they want to get funds. And then you will be, again, the vulnerability that'll prey on that, and then someone will use their money, they'll use their savings and pass it on to this person. And if they get you once, they'll get you twice, they'll get you 3 times. That's very prevalent. People have lost thousands of pounds of that across the country from all different sections, and you'd be surprised what the individuals being caught.
We have heard of some cases in the county, but you're saying this is a big problem all
Yeah.
over the country.
Yeah, and the education on that one is don't trust people in an online presence until you can verify something. Okay. Another one, invoice redirection is very big. That would be more targeting businesses, but like businesses like solicitor firms especially get targeted on that. And the situation with that one is that you receive an invoice from your supplier or from a client saying, I've changed my bank account, can you process any further payments to this new bank account? Yeah. And that would mean that, again, that social engineering is where they would have got the person's details or email addresses maybe 6 or 7 months ago. And where solicitors have got caught on that is they'll think it's a purchase for a property, and they'll get an email from another solicitor going, we've changed your bank account anymore. If you're transferring the property price, can you transfer to that? So a client could transfer over 300 grand there for a purchase of a house to a solicitor firm. And again, how to prevent that, and it's very, very simple, is if you get an email in from a supplier that's saying I'm changing my bank account, which doesn't really happen, ring them up and say, have you changed your bank account?
Yes.
And if they haven't, then you know if they have, so you can verify it.
Yeah. And that's a very simple way that somebody very genuine could get caught by fraud, but just because they didn't take the few minutes to make the phone call before they set up the new payee, it makes all the difference. And you've seen and heard of cases like this. Yeah.
That's a big one. Another one that's happening at the moment, and it really preys on the elderly people that are involved in banking and stuff like that, is the push payment fraud. So you'll get a cold call from someone saying I'm a Roscommon Credit Union, or I'm at an Irish Bank, or I'm Bank of Ireland, or I'm Revolut, and your account, we've seen suspicious activity on your account, and we need you to move your money to this account quickly, or we need you to, because there's fraud in your account. So you're automatically shocked, you think it's happened, so you just play along and you move your money to a new IBAN with AIB or some bank you trust, and it's a fraudster. And again, the situation there to prevent that is you hang up and you ring your bank and ask them, is this true? Or you check your account, you see no suspicious activity. But the criminal will make 700 phone calls. All you need is one person to go, okay, I'll transfer my money. So you can see how people get caught. So Doug push on, like where you have call centres like all across the world for different things. The fraudsters have call centres for this reason too. So they have people employed in different locations. Just
might be just one person. No. It could be a group.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. That is amazing.
Yeah. And then you have the tech support one, which is the big one as well at the moment. The tech support one is when people they ring you and say, "Oh, your computer has a virus."
That was nearly the first one, Neville, was it? We'd have heard cases of that nearly 20 years ago when you only had, you were dialed into the phone line with the plug, and people were ringing to fix your computer.
Yeah, the computer has a virus.
So that's still going strong.
Yeah, and you give them access to your system. They remotely get access to it. You get into your online banking, and you find that they clear it out 2 days or 3 days later, and you find out about it down the line.
My God.
Yeah. So it doesn't have to be as complicated. I'll give you an example of a fraud that's very, very simple. It doesn't need to be sophisticated. Midterm break, you're going off with the kids and your partner for a 2-day trip down the country because they're off for the midterm. You check into your hotel. You get there, panic getting the bags in the car. They want to go swimming. You arrive in the hotel. You go into the hotel. You check in. You're rushing to get to the lift, and you're, oh my God, look, eventually we got here.
You're going to spoil the holiday.
So,
keep going.
Yeah, the person behind the counter, you swipe your credit card just as a reserve it, okay? So the normal thing, swap your payment card, you go up to the room and you're sitting down there, go, grand, okay, I'm going to relax now, have a glass of wine. The kids are going to the pool. The phone rings, reception high, and your card didn't swipe. But listen, we won't put you to any trouble. Just give me the card number over the phone there, and so you're there. You give them the card number over the phone. You give them the expiry date and the 3 digits at the back, and you think that's just reserving my room, and you hang up and you enjoy your weekend. And 6 months later, your card is used, and you go, "How did my card scam?" Because you can't think, was I online? Was I buying something? It's got in the hotel. 6 months later, 6 months earlier. And now that might necessarily be the hotel. It wouldn't be the hotel. It would be someone watching to see what room you went to. They know you're going into room 21, so they have someone outside to ring room 21, or it's they've infiltrated the hotel. And that's a regular one that happens like out of the blue. That's not very sophisticated.
Yeah.
So that's again, it's social engineering. People being caught in vulnerable times.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, really good one.
One to be aware of.
Yeah. Again, and those going back to the invoice redirection, they usually target businesses. So you have a CEO of a business that says on Facebook, delighted to be away in France for the weekend, he puts it up on Facebook and someone spots that, that's when to send him the email because he's relaxing, he's not busy, and he just closes it on and changes the bank account and makes the payment. So they know, so social media presence is where they can prey on stuff like that. So people need to be careful, like 79% of the population are on social media.
You'd hear a lot about that, it's to protect your house from burglary, maybe not to be...
Yeah, but the same type of thing. So they use, when you're in your vulnerable times, people use stuff like that. So.
Neville, I haven't been able to ask anybody else that I've been talking to this week, except you. But do these fraudsters ever get caught, or ever is there ever an end line for? Have you ever seen the end line for some of them?
Yeah, absolutely. The last, as I said, I've been worked in the guards in financial crime for 20 years, and in the last 7 to 8 years, there's been a huge. The courts have really come down hard on fraudsters.
Brilliant. Okay.
And especially in the area of money laundering, because that fraud, the proceeds of all this crime is usually laundered then again through bank accounts and through different types of things like cryptocurrency, all that. But if there are people are caught that way, they're really, really prosecuted. The courts take it really serious nowadays. If you every week there's something from the courts on financial crime or on, especially on the money laundering fraud. Now, a lot of it is the low-hanging fruit as people are being caught, people who are the soldiers of the fraudsters. The fraudsters necessarily mightn't live here, like. Again, it's international organised crime, and because everything's an online presence, the main guy could be living in South America or in Asia, or not necessarily be in Ireland. But you can see over the last 5 to 6 years, a lot of the criminals that are active in it in Ireland have been arrested and prosecuted, especially in the area of money muling, where students were involved, giving their accounts over. So yes. But people need to be aware that that when you're involved in this, you do get prosecuted. Yeah.
No, that's amazing. But it's good to know that there is some accountability for fraudulent activity on vulnerable people, because that's nearly everyone that's caught has a vulnerability at some stage.
And the trend in that is like the credit union closes here on a Friday at 5 p.m. I finish work at 5 p.m. The guards finish their work on a certain shift. Criminals don't finish this around the clock. So when you go home, they don't go home. So they're constantly at this. And when we sit down and have our fraud prevention meetings like this, or the guards do their work, or everybody does it on money laundering or fraud, organised crime meet the same way. They all meet together and find out where the vulnerabilities and where they can open and infiltrate, especially in the financial crime area. Okay,
very good. It's all very serious and nearly scary in one sense. And I suppose the message we're trying to make, people have to still go about their daily lives.
Yes.
But to be aware of it, and I think if we can try and create even a little bit of awareness this week, we will be happy. I suppose when we have you here, is there anything you think that the public at large could do to educate themselves that little bit further? Because people haven't the time, people are scrolling, people are like a few quick fixes, or as you just said,
safeguarding is very important, and it's all about, again, education and awareness, and then using technology from like yourselves in here to help prevent fraud. But on the education peak, it's very, very small, just things. If you're wary of something online, just don't pass any money. If you're wary of something online, you're wary for a reason. So don't pass money online if you don't need to. Legitimate companies and organisations will not cold call you looking for banking information or for your details. Like Revenue is not going to call you looking for your banking information. They're not, where people have been caught on phishing scams clicking into that. So again, they're not going to text you looking for your banking information. So if you get a WhatsApp from Revenue or WhatsApp from DHL saying your delivery, if you haven't ordered something, you're not going to get that. So just be wary of that. If you are in a situation where you have to make an urgent payment, like an invoice redirection, if a relative looks, you say a text message looking for money, if a government financial, verify it. Just verify it, make a phone call. People have got caught on these WhatsApp messages, hey mom, I'm over here, or here, on that. Verify it before you make a payment. People, now, there is
that's
situation.
Good advice. End the call and ring back.
Yeah, there is situations, people are busy in their life like that, and people do need payments and stuff, but verify it like that, especially an invoice redirection. If you get a new change your bank account, you ring the supplier and ask them how they changed. And in the investment fraud end of things, if it's too good to be true, it's not true. Because people have lost pension funds on investment fraud, especially in the area of cryptocurrency, where the money disappears, you'll never get it back. And then don't give people remote access to your computers. The phone is a huge one, the older liable of, especially people, older generation getting cold phone calls, and might be on their own all week and haven't spoke to someone. So someone is talking to them on the phone and think this is a nice person and they give away their account details.
Neville, you've mentioned there a couple of times cryptocurrency, which will be possibly new to a lot of people, but it has been around for a number of years. What's your feelings on it? Do you think it's, I suppose, a financial product that is more susceptible to fraud schemes and financial crime than maybe just regular transfers?
Yes, probably because it's in the digital world, but it's here to stay, and it's the next step. Like we went from card not present cards to tapping with our phones. In America, tapping with your glasses. So it's gone that way. So cryptocurrency is just a new element of money, and we have e-money and all that. So it's here to stay. It's more riskier because it's online probably, and because it's maybe not centralized and regulated in some countries. But like there's lots of legislation coming down the line, so it's here to stay. It is like where people there's a huge amount of cryptocurrency investment frauds, but there's very much the same in real money. And like romance fraud is usually euros and dollars that's transferred. So while it's a new part of a payment and stuff like that, it's vulnerable to fraud, but not maybe a little bit more than the regular bricks and mortar banking. But nobody wants people to come into a bank anymore. Everything's online, so it's in the same situation.
And I suppose it's back to again get the proper financial advice. And look for somebody that specialises in cryptocurrency.
Absolutely,
I suppose.
Absolutely, yeah. So, and the advice I give on that, where that might be the education, the advice again is the very simple things. Never share your PIN, never share your password, and don't, when you don't know people on emails and on the phone, verify everything. Don't click on the link. Don't share too much on social media. People have all their details on social media, where they went to school, whether they're left-handed or right-handed. You don't need that stuff to be on social media. One thing that people don't do, because in the digital world, is you don't check your bank statements anymore to see if there's any activity on them. You don't, because you get them online, so you can know what's in your account, but you don't go through it. So there might be scams on your account there that you're not seeing.
That's important.
So monitor your accounts. And again, you could get a phishing alert today, and your account might be used for 2 or 3 years because they'll hold that data, because people don't change their bank accounts. So that's for the example of the hotel where they were compromised was the hotel, but their account was used 3 years down the line or 2 years down the line, and you're not going to bring it back to when I get a card number in a hotel over a phone.
And just the time of year as well, Neville, we're conscious of the online shopping with Cyber Monday and Black Friday and all of that. Is there anything else around that outside of vigilance that the general public can be watching?
Most of the payment institutions or banking now would all have two-factor authentication when you're buying something online. So it'll push to your phone or whatever like that. It's all about passwords and having, like, even password protections that you have on an iPhone. Use all of these type of things, but be vigilant. If something is wary, verify it beforehand, and don't share your password and your banking.
Trust your gut, like you said there.
It's a lot of it like that.
Neville, it's been amazing. Thank you so much for coming into us today. Hopefully our followers and members have found it very useful. We've found the chat very useful here, so hopefully you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much.